So, there have been 2 games that have released in this month alone, and I really want to talk about both of them. But, instead of talking about Deltarune's Chapter 3 and 4, I'll switch that to next week, because I have some ideas I want to get, written down. Instead, this week, let's talk about FNAF's newest entry, Secret of the Mimic. From what I've seen from Let's Play YouTubers, this game is honestly pretty cool, and I can't wait to actually play it when I have money. But enough about that. Right now, we must discuss spoiler warning for Secret of the Mimic. If you haven't played it or watched anyone play it, go back, do that right now, because we will be talking about its endings. Go! Oh, and I guess general spoiler for FNAF 3, 6, and 5. Go play those because they're like $7 and they're honestly pretty good. So yeah, go play them. Now, let's talk about the ending for those of you who have left to go play the games. Anyway, so there's a real ending and a secret ending. And I want to know which of those endings was the real ending, in quotation marks. The ending where Arnold escapes from and then the Mimic appears, causing the car to flip over and for the Mimic to take the Beta Phaz wrench? Or is it the other ending where David, the Mimic David, is defeated by a story time and goes to bed and says, "I love you," to a voice recording of his mom, which was telling him the story. I say him, but it was the Mimic, and it was a whole thing, but yeah, no, so yeah, which one is the real ending? Spoilers for Security Breach Ruin, but basically, at the end, the Mimic is alive and chases us down even further into a room with costumes, and then an elevator, and then Cassie dies. So yeah, just avoiding the fact that the Mimic is somehow still fully operational over 50, 60 years later. And so I want to toss my hat into the ring and figure out which ending is the real ending. So, in One Night at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic, where we play as some guy named Arnold, he explores Murray's costume manor only to be jumped at by the Mimic, who is very bad. So, in the good ending, where Arnold's van is flipped upside down and he's knocked unconscious while the car's on fire, the Mimic steals the prototype Phaz wrench and just kind of walks back to Murray's. So one would think that's most likely the ending that carries through the entire series. But there is another ending, which is where you read a story to the Mimic through a voice recording of Fiona's voice, the only mother in the FNAF series that actually has a name and a face. Well, until she doesn't, but that's not what we're going to be talking about right now. Anyway, the Mimic is tucked into bed, and the credits roll, and that's the second ending. The Mimic goes to sleep after hearing Fiona read a bedtime story. So one might assume that if the Mimic is fixed in that ending and goes to bed and is now a better person, that means that can't possibly be the canon ending of Secret of the Mimic. But in order to fully say that, we do have to go back and look at some of the previous endings from each FNAF game that had an ending. 3, 5, and 6. I guess I should clarify, I don't mean the end of the series, I mean multiple endings for the game. So in FNAF 3's case, we have the good ending and the bad ending, with the bad ending having the animatronic lights on in their eye sockets, and the good ending having no lights on. And while I'm not going to claim to know anything, I believe that the canon ending for FNAF 3 is the good ending, only because the fun times aren't exactly possessed by the characters. They're more so just hyper-advanced AIs in the year 1980. But it is mentioned that the animatronics were melted down to create the fun times, which doesn't make much sense considering the animatronics were disassembled in the 93 location, like the mid-90s, so it's kind of weird. Now, moving to sister location, which is less confusing because it has real ending and fake ending on the ending screens, but basically we know that Michael was scooped and turned a shade of purple. And in FNAF 6, we know that the canon ending is the ending where the robots are melted down in a fire and Henry has a little speech, and that game takes place in like 2018. Now, you might be wondering what that has to do with anything, and the truth is, I was trying to lead into the Secret of the Mimic ending, which one is probably the one Steelwool is gonna base the rest of the lore off of, and that's the easiest answer ever, because one thing I forgot to mention is that in the Storytime Lullaby ending, Arnold uses the Faz Wrench prototype to fix the Mimic and update its software so now it no longer kills people. And I doubt that's the ending they're gonna go with, considering with the Mimic no longer an antagonist, what reason do we have for it to be evil again and Security Breach ruin? Thank you for your time. That was my TED Talk. Stay golden!